In the autumn of 79 AD, a Roman city of 20,000 people woke to an ordinary morning. Bread was baking in stone ovens. Shopkeepers unlocked their doors. In one courtyard, a dog lay chained in the sun. None of them looked twice at the mountain on the horizon, and none of them knew that within a single day, every street, every voice, every heartbeat in this city would be buried under 18 feet of ash and frozen there for almost 2,000 years. This is the story of the last day of Pompeii. Pompeii was no backwater. It was a jewel of the Bay of Naples, a bustling port where wealthy Romans came to escape the noise of the capital. Its streets were paved in stone and rutted by the wheels of 1,000 carts. Its walls glowed with painted frescoes. Its taverns poured wine from across the empire. Fountains splashed on street corners. Elections were fought with slogans daubed on the walls. This was a city fully, vividly alive, and all of it was fed by the impossibly rich soil of a single mountain, Vesuvius. The people of Pompeii loved that mountain. Its slopes gave them grapes for wine, olives for oil, and wheat that grew thick and golden. Vineyards climbed its sides, villas dotted its base. What they did not know, what no one in the entire Roman world understood, was that Vesuvius was not really a mountain at all. It was a volcano, and it had been sleeping for more than 1,000 years. There had been warnings, if only they could have read them. 16 years earlier, a violent earthquake had cracked the city's temples and thrown its statues to the ground. Much of Pompeii was still being rebuilt when the end came. In the final days, the signs multiplied. Wells and springs mysteriously ran dry. Small tremors trembled through the floors. Animals grew restless. But the Romans had no science of volcanoes, no word for it, no memory of what this mountain could do. So they read the tremors, as the gods, being difficult, repaired their walls, refilled their cups, and carried on with their lives. Then came the day itself. Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, with almost no final warning, Vesuvius tore itself open. A column of superheated gas, ash, and rock blasted into the sky at nearly twice the speed of sound. It climbed with terrifying speed, 9 miles high, then 12, and finally more than 20 miles into the heavens. From Pompeii, just 5 miles away, it must have looked like a pillar holding up the sky. Across the bay, a curious 18-year-old named Pliny the Younger watched the whole thing and later wrote the only eyewitness account that survives. He said the cloud rose like a great umbrella pine, its trunk shooting upward before spreading into monstrous branches. It was beautiful. It was the most terrible thing he had ever seen. At first, it was not fire that fell on Pompeii. It was stone, ash, and pumice, rock so full of trapped air that it was almost light as snow. It drifted down over the city in a thickening gray blizzard. Some people understood at once and fled, clutching children, coins, a single oil lamp to see by. Others bolted their doors and sheltered inside, certain it would pass. It did not pass. The pumice piled higher and higher, 1 foot, then 3, then 6. It choked the streets and blocked the doorways. Roofs began to groan under the impossible weight, and then to collapse, one after another, burying whoever had stayed beneath. And still, hour after hour, in a darkness deeper than any night, it fell. Then, in the blackest hours before dawn, Vesuvius entered its final and deadliest phase. High above, the towering column could no longer hold itself up, and it collapsed. What came down was no longer gentle ash. It was a pyroclastic surge, a ground-hugging avalanche of superheated gas and rock, moving at 100 miles an hour, hot enough to kill a human being in a single breath. It roared down the slopes of the mountain and burst over the city walls. For the people still trapped inside Pompeii, there was no time to run, no time to pray, no time even to understand what was happening. The heat reached them where they stood, and in an instant, it was over. When the mountain finally fell silent, Pompeii was simply gone. Where a city had stood, there was now a smooth, grey plain of ash, stretching to the sea. Over the years, that ash hardened into rock. The bodies inside it slowly decayed away, but they left behind something extraordinary, perfect hollows in the exact shape of the people who had died there. Almost 2,000 years later, archaeologists made a haunting discovery. If they poured liquid plaster into those hollows and let it set, they could pull out the precise form of a human being's final moment. A woman shielding her face from the heat, a couple holding one another, a child curled as if only asleep in his mother's arms. Not skeletons, not statues. The shape of fear, the shape of love, frozen forever, at the instant the world ended. For nearly 1,700 years, Pompeii lay forgotten beneath the fields and vineyards, its very name fading into legend. Then, in 1748, workers digging a foundation struck something strange, painted walls deep underground. Slowly, carefully, the buried city was lifted back into the light, and what emerged left the world breathless. Loaves of bread, still sitting in the oven where a baker had left them. Election posters, bright on the walls. Graffiti scratched by bored teenagers. Jars of fruit, a surgeon's tools, a dog still chained at a doorway. Pompeii, it turned out, was not just a ruin. It was a photograph of a single, ordinary day in the ancient world, captured at the exact moment it ended, and preserved more completely than any place on Earth. 20,000 people once called Pompeii home. When Vesuvius woke, most of them escaped with their lives. Around 2,000 did not, and it is because of them, because their city died so suddenly that it never truly disappeared, that we can still walk these streets today. We can stand in their forum, read their words, and feel, for just a moment, the last ordinary day of a world that never saw it coming. If you would like to walk through more lost moments of history like this one, subscribe, and I will see you in the next story.